So I'll get started with the presentation. I'll start off by saying I think this is about my maybe 6th or 7th budget that I've at a minimum assisted with, if not done. Mr. Abernathy, the last 2 years of his time, thankfully had me meet with the department heads to help prepare a budget document, and then I turned it over to him and Ms. Bell for the final document. But those 2 years helped me tremendously to understand the interaction with the departments, one, but also the needs they have and how to put together a balanced budget. So this year was I won't say a little, it was a lot different. So we transmitted the budget packets February, as we usually do. I started meeting with departments in early March, and about mid-March some things started to happen with coronavirus, and so we backed off on a lot of the meetings. Still had some discussions with especially the larger departments, and as the smaller departments send their budgets, there was more one-on-one phone and email conversations, but we did the process a little bit differently just because of the nature of the pandemic. So what you'll see has everyone's request in it, and as I say every year, we'll get into this is my attempt to balance your priorities, state mandates, etc., but mostly my attempt to listen to what you say during the year and put this into a document. I found this quote, I had one from a former professor for a number of years, but I really like this one. I'll just read it out. Don't tell me where your priorities are, show me where you spend your money, and I'll tell you what they are. So this is really what this is. I mean, again, we in county government, we have mandated services that the state mandates that we do. The level of how we do that, and especially the non-mandatory services that we do, like EMS, like library, recreation, some of the others, these are your priorities. And so if it doesn't reflect your priorities either now or in the future, there's an opportunity to adjust that. So it's a little hard to see all the text up there, but this is just a reminder of the scope of our organization, of course, led by the Board of Commissioners. Have our 2 elected officials. You have board appointed and board supervised, being the manager, attorney, clerk. You have board appointed and manager supervised, being the the DSS director, assessor, and collector for taxes. And then the rest of the different directors for the different departments. So we won't get into that necessarily, but quite different from a city organization. So very, very complex. So again, internally, these are the departments that you fund in this budget. And so this is the funded agencies that are external to us. Some are mandated. Most of these are mandated. There are some optional. So clerk of court, you're required to provide funding for her office as well as the operation of the courthouse. Foothills Health District, mandated to provide funding for public health. So you see the list. Again, most of these are mandated, but you do have a few optional services in there from nonprofits, etc., that are fulfilling a function. All of these, the one basic requirement, especially if they're external nonprofits, is that they must be fulfilling some sort of public function that you're otherwise able to do.
Is there an individual breakdown of the funding that we do for like clerk report?
We can provide that. It is on your flash drive, but we can, any department you'd like to see, we do definitely have that. I can print it out for you, yes, sir. But quickly, we'll talk about the current year, some of the accomplishments from your priorities. So talk about the transit department just a bit. Continue to improve that service. We have new vehicles in place. Our goal is to have all new vehicles within the next 2 budget years.
You ought to get a vehicle there, actually, see Ford, if they're all new Ford vehicles.
That's right. So we like the Ford Transits. I think Allison, we're going to have 5 delivered in a few months. I think so. Maybe
by order, they're due in this fiscal year, but last year it was July before we got.
It takes a while with the state procurement, but our goal would be to have all new within 2 years. And again, most of that is paid for with federal funding. The renovated River Park, it's now called the Forest State Trail Greenleaf Park, was opened in September. It's very popular and for walking, fishing, and picnicking. It's closed right now because of the flood damage, so we're working to get that reopened, at least partially within the next day or two. Some of the repairs will take a few weeks, but we'll at least get it open this week for the rest of it. Courthouse renovation project continues. The new courtroom has been in use almost a year already. So the renovation should be complete in a few months. I know Mr. DePoyster, who is here, will be glad for that, as we all will be, including the staff there at the courthouse. Talking about this property, the development of the land at Universal continues. We received a grant that will extend water and sewer on College Drive, as well as the prior grant that will build access roads on that undeveloped property. Talk about also on the Universal property, the board approved setting aside land on the north side of College Drive for housing development in partnership with the Gateway Wellness Foundation. Mr. Gurney will be coming to, I think, your July meeting to give an update on that. Looking elsewhere, the Board of Elections building opened, providing space for one-stop voting, training equipment, and storage. It's been very well received by the community. I know they had one stop there back in March, and they did a great job, and the public was very pleased with the comments I heard. Planning for the public shooting range on Ashworth Road continued this year. Wildlife has indicated bidding should commence in July or August. The site will be constructed primarily with federal funds beyond by the county. A great investment there, 10% local funds. Talk about trails again. The chairman and staff have met quarterly with the trail committee to identify opportunities for trail development.
Actually, I'm going to pause you just a second on that and get a little clarity on that. On that 10% on that shooting range, that is locked in definitely for us, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, because, the delays have, it changed to our favor because of delays.
Right.
So can it change again?
No, you've signed an agreement with the state.
So we are locked in.
Yes, sir, it's in writing.
Good.
So, a couple more. A lot happened this year, still a month ago. The board approved a site development plan for the Black Bear property on the north side of Lake James. The site, which will be leased by Duke Energy to the county, will have a day use area with picnic tables, a fishing pier, and a separate area for overnight camping. So that's still a lot more permitting to do there with the federal government, but going to be a great use of that property. Speaking of recreation, the board has had several meetings during the year to talk about recreation programs and facilities. So great collaboration developing there between, again, some of that was delayed because of coronavirus, but with the school system, the area directors, some of the other agencies. So that's something we'll continue to build on in the next year. Mr. Keller is here. Thursday, you have a public hearing for the financing and submission of the local government application local government commission application for our EMS bases. Several years ago, you approved a 4-station plan for that. We bid out the renovation of one building and the construction of the other. And again, this week we'll have the final local step and then submit it to the state for hopefully their approval next month. You contracted with Assessment Solutions in North Carolina to begin the real property revaluation for 2023. So he is visiting every parcel in the county. That's a great accomplishment to our knowledge that's perhaps never been done. So a lot has happened. There's probably some smaller things. There are a lot of good smaller things, but these are definitely the highlights this year. So we put this up every year, and every year I say, you know, it's a little hard to see and read, but you do have your handout in front of you. What we do is we take our population group, so about 12 counties above and 12 below, and we just show you the statistics there about the number of county employees, their general fund expenditures, property tax revenues, tax rate, etc., and summarize it on the next page, just to kind of give you a picture of where you are. There's no opinion tied to this or editorializing or anything. It's just the facts. So McDowell County employs 51 fewer employees than the average of that group. We budget about $11 million less. Our tax rate is about 13 cents below the average. Our tax revenues are about 4.8 million below the average, and our average general expenditure is about 244 below the average. So again, there's no opinion tied to this or anything. It's just presenting you the picture of our peers. Just so you have some information. Talk about the recommendation now. The next is a nice little picture I came up with, really just to illustrate what you all know, but the board priorities circle probably should be a little bit larger, but you do have state mandates, your priorities, agency and department requests, and public requests that are essentially going through the green filter there of available resources. And then you're presented with the budget recommendation. So a lot of times, all four of those smaller circles can be quite large when compared to the resources, which again is our revenue. But we do our best to meet all four of those, especially your priorities and the mandates in this document. So some of our priorities, which will be your priorities and staff as well. Maintain public education funding, improve public safety through investments in emergency services and sheriff's office, recruit and retain skilled county staff, improve county facilities, invest in community and economic development. Again, we talked about the process. Again, it was a little modified this year, not as many in-person meetings, but we did have some follow-up with department heads. There is no date on the public hearing. We would request that you allow us to advertise for 2 weeks from now, and that we approve it on Tuesday, June 30th. So there are some new expenditure impacts, and we'll go over those. This list has been longer in the past couple of years. One thing you'll notice in this list is that there are several categories of expenditures that are long-term projects that we've been working on, unavoidable projects, not a lot of other priorities other than just, gosh, what we have to do to get by this year, with very few exceptions. So for public education, there is an increase requested or recommended for the community college operating They are opening a new building in several months, if not weeks. Counties are required to provide for the operating costs, and so this is to address that need. For public safety, you have an EMS building debt payment. Again, this is 1/2 of what will be an annual payment. So the next year would essentially be double, and this is interest only. So in year 3, you would have interest and principal. EN Communications holiday pay. Our staff work on holidays in that department, big surprise. But we have not accurately budgeted what their holiday pay is, so this would make sure it's actually in the budget, so there's no need to amend later on. Sheriff operating, this is tied in mostly to prior approvals that you have made for the SRO program. County facilities and equipment, you have some vehicles that were purchased in the last budget year. So those payments are being made in the coming year. Election utilities, it's a big building. It requires a lot of utility costs. That was not in last year's budget, so that reflects this expenditure. The sheriff's facility roof, that is coming from general fund revenues. There are some jail revenues that are covering about half the cost. And the Catawba River Trail maintenance, we've set that line item up for expected and unexpected repairs out at the river trail. County organization improvements, you also have the local retirement rate increase. Talked about this, I believe 2 weeks ago. The local governmental employees retirement system is mandating increases from all the employers, and so that will be our share to do that. So community economic development, you have waste disposal increase. We found out about a week and a half ago that is tied into cost of living adjustment on the federal level. Health department, there is a third year of a 3-year plan to increase the funding there.
How long was that, and I hate to keep interrupting you, but how long was that contract we had on that last contract we done with solid waste?
It's at least 10 years.
That's 10 years, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's right. They had in there an adjustment every year of 1 to 3% based on a certain Department of Commerce calculation.
Is this the 30,000 to 3%?
That's right.
Yeah, that'd be 3%. Okay.
The shooting range, the revaluation contract, that was started after last year, or this year's budget started, so the full cost is in this year's budget.
And that's his final check, right?
That will be second out of 3 payments.
And now he's got a reval for the upcoming year.
Right, so we're clear, the contract preparing for FY23, the payment is split over 3 years. So the current year is the first payment. This budget will have the second, and then 22 there will be the last payment. The shooting range, this is the 10%, the local match. That's a $2.5 million project estimated. The broadband study approved 2 weeks ago. Great thing. That's seen some documents that's going to be underway very soon. I talked about the water and sewer match, or the project. This is the local match on that. That is in the budget. So this is your proposal. The proposed general fund expenditure is $45,893,518. So an increase of $450,675. I will note a big portion of that are jail revenue reserves that have been dedicated towards expenditure increases at the sheriff's office and the jail. So that's probably 85% of that cost. So again, it's just an ordinance comparison going back the last 10 years. But without the reserve allocation, it would almost be flat, if not negative, this year. Because it's just the tax rate as well as the base. No tax rate increase, of course.
Actually, one question.
Yes, sir.
There's no general fund dropping in there to make it balance. The budget
No,
balance,
sir.
right? Okay.
There are reserve appropriations. So the jail reserve, there's one for the government channel, but not what I would call a fund.
We're not just taking
appropriation.
X amount of money out and make it balance.
No, sir.
Okay.
So again, we like charts and drawings and things in government. It's really just to illustrate that the property tax is our largest by far revenue source, 51%. Sales taxes, third, 13%. Social and community programs, most of that is intergovernmental transfer from federal funds into DSS. Public safety is EMS fees and sheriff charges, and then miscellaneous there is 5%. So on our revenue changes here, property tax, some of this on the top there, the $1 million increase, quite a bit of that was sort of carryover from the reval. In the current year, we, I guess, realized some of this, and so some amendments were made for different projects in the current year that you've approved. So I would say the vast majority of this change, we had already realized some of that in this year. DSS revenue, Allison will correct me if I'm wrong, but believe that decrease is with the child care no longer coming through our budget. So it's really not, it's more of a wash than anything. Building permits continue to do well there, hope so in the future. Interest earnings, if you have a savings account, you've noticed you're not drawing much interest. It's the same for us. Interest rates are pretty terrible right now, which are great if you're borrowing, but not if you're saving. So we anticipate a large decrease there. We've already seen that in the current year. Sales tax. This is obviously from year to year, probably the hardest revenue to really pinpoint, to really know which direction it will go. So this is very dependent every year on consumer confidence, consumer spending. And so we have been doing fairly well up until the coronavirus pandemic. So we really don't have yet even the figures going back to mid-March to now what our impact will be.
Do they do this? Do they just release those quarterly or monthly?
It's a monthly release, but it's about 3 months behind.
Gotcha.
So we have seen a statewide average, I guess. I believe I would be off, Allison, but it was definitely decreased even for March for that half of the month. I would think there was an impact. So we'll know within the next week or two, if not sooner on.
Can you forward that when you get that
Yes,
forward
sir.
to the board?
We're all waiting for bated breath on
It'll be 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Okay.
So we're very interested to see any trends. So again, this is a projection because I don't have a crystal ball, no one does. We're basing this based on really on best guesses from people that do this for a living, and they do have projections of sales tax decreases. We hope not, but we're trying to be prudent. So what you're seeing and what this will get us going for July 1 as far as a balanced budget. Our hope is always that revenues are higher than we anticipate and expenditures are lower, but we really won't know until we get really into October or November. So staff would suggest going with the recommendation, wait until the fall to see how things are going before any decisions are made on changing anything of any consequence. So again, for the most part, sales tax is lower. So there is a change that we'll watch there. Permits and fees, franchise cable, people are dropping their cable subscriptions. They're going with Netflix and different things of that sort, and that is not taxed, and so we lose on tax revenue on that. Again, inspection fees are doing well. EMS billing, again, this may be something that doesn't turn out to be accurate, but we do feel like there could likely be some impact on EMS transports in the year. We'll just see. And then the communications fee you approved 2 weeks ago. So our expenditures, a little bit of a change this year. Our public safety expenditures are over human services this year. That's not always the case, but it is this year. So for most counties, your three highest are going to be public safety, human services, and education, and everything. And those are your pretty much your three mandated areas. Everything else is usually in the discretionary category. We would really prefer the education to be higher than anything else, but it's always our goal. Again, education funding holds steady. So no increase recommended of any line item for the school system. For the college, there is the recommended increase for the new building, but otherwise there's no other increase.
Because they did not give you any data, did they, regarding that new building? And you've asked for it? As far as
I got the, not specifically, I know what the square footage is, and I got a budget request, but not anticipated operating cost. This is based on educated guesswork, based on the operating cost of the building that size.
And they're like any other group, external list that you posted, they have a deadline to get their request into you too, right?
That's right.
You know, and I'm going to gripe a little bit right here. We've got a man sitting here with us that was previously on the school board, so he might be able to elaborate on it. You know, we done that teacher incentive, which was a big thing. That was a big thing, I think. And did you know that I have never mentioned that to a single teacher that knew anything about that was aware of it, that it said they was, I didn't know it. That, you know, that really irritates me, that the school teachers don't even know it, and I think it was a big deal.
Is there money, since you brought that up, you know, we said we was going to do a how many year plan?
You started off at 4 and you did 4.
So now, we don't have anything in there now.
No.
But now they communicated to us indirectly that because of that dollar amount, when it increases, they've got to increase their benefit line items, and neighboring county, Burke, reevaluate how they were doing that. They didn't do it on the incentive. So I don't want to, you know, the work we've done there, I don't want to just let it lay fallow. We need to have a discussion with them for next budget year on what would be their recommendation as a school board to the county in regard to teachers, and to continue the good work that the board's done to increase that over a 4-year plan to supplement. we want to, how can we assist the school board in continuing to help McDowell County be very, very competitive when it comes to recruitment and retention of teachers? And if it's a different way other than a supplement, that board needs to give, our staff needs to give our staff recommendation so we can consider it next year, because they basically know that everybody's, they know that you're not expecting an increase this year. We won't cut them, of course, we've never cut them, we won't, but we don't have the money to give to them. But we need to be working for next year on that, on how they would want us to do that, because evidently there's a more preferred possible option for them than doing it on the supplement side.
We could look into that, yes, sir. So this next slide, I think, has been on every year I've been with the county. Again, it's just a fact. We used to have one other line item here, which was allocations to fire departments, and that was switched to a different revenue source a number of years ago. The solid waste fund, which is an enterprise fund, the state, an enterprise fund is to operate essentially as a business, and the solid waste enterprise does not break even. It will never break even in the sense that the state would define it under our current funding scheme. Most counties, in our population group at least, if not more than that, have a household user fee or some other funding source other than general fund taxes that they use to fund their solid waste system. So essentially it's a trash tax that is on the tax bill that people are paying on top of their property taxes. And so those funds would go directly into the solid waste enterprise fund. So you're doing about the same thing, but it's a good reminder on the 2.44 cent. That's really important part when you're comparing your 58 3/4 with your peers. It's really a little bit different than that, because your Rutherford counties, your Burke counties, your others, we're only seeing the rate. We're not seeing what they assess on the solid waste side. So it's not quite apples to apples.
Question on that with the city. I mean, I live in the city and I know I pay city taxes, and they just increased us. We got X number of bags or whatever. How do, when the city brings the trash to the landfill to dump, is there a charge to that city? I think I've asked that before in years past. Because they increased mine, I've got X number of bags over now. But does the county, is the city charged for that trash coming in?
So when they are bringing household waste, so yours and mine, everyone else's, that is known at our transfer station, that is household waste. That is not charged. Now, they have different trucks, front-loading trucks like ours, that are picking up the McDonald's and different places. That is charged the commercial rate.
What kind of revenue? I mean, you know, if you're gonna be fair about it, just talking about fairness, that's what we gotta do. We gotta lead everything. Why would they get a break on, they're providing their service, but anybody lives in the county, well, they're getting it free though, we don't charge a fee. Okay, I just use my rationale out of water. I thought we ought to charge them to do that. We're not charging our people.
I brought that up one other time, the fact that, you know, you've got commercial people that are hauling residential trash to the landfill, profiting by it without charge. That's not fair. Honestly, that's not
I thought there's a fee in place now for that.
Well, if I take my household trash down there, it's $5, correct?
Yes. That's what I think.
You go to the,
Okay, if the city brings everybody in the city's trash down there and there's no charge,
well, there you go.
how many $5 households are you missing?
If you cross the scales, it's $5.
We do not, so for like the city, there's no charge if it's residential. For private haulers that attest to us that they're hauling residential only, there's no charge.
But wouldn't
But it's-
it be, I don't think it would be unfair to ask for a fee from the commercial haulers.
And the city then, because.
And the city.
Lynn's point addressed it, because
I'm happy to pay it, and they ain't.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
If I take a load down there, I get charged with me as a general contractor. If I took a load down there that came from David's house, they would charge me commercial fee to do it.
I think that's something we need to look at for next year, and look at the fee schedule.
They would. I mean, I'd have to go there and pay, $150, $200 or whatever to dump a load of trash.
That is definitely something Allison and Terry and I
Because it
could
was
look
commercial.
into.
You
The
see what
different
I'm
fee
saying?
schedules, how other counties treat municipal waste versus non-municipal.
Yeah,
waste.
that's what we need to look at, because, we're so nice to our city brethren, we agreed to take that 3-year reduction on that deal the other day, so we need to look at other ways we can be fair. It's just a matter of fairness, and we need to look at how we can be fair to the city in regard to the trash municipality to the county. That's,
We'll get working on it. So the debt service, this has the new EMS base that has not been technically approved but anticipated. Shows our other capital projects that are out there. This doesn't have vehicles in it, those sorts of things. So don't have a start date for EMS base, but we're looking at the longest, a 20-year term there. Nebo water line, that was a small project there, will be off in a year and a half. Wolford Senior Center is almost paid off there. I know Mr. Prebor has expressed to me and maybe to some of you there is community interest in expanding that building to add an activity room, and there's some donations being made for that.
do they not have a space now in that?
It's very limited for activities. So he's had some folks approach him saying they would help make that happen.
I remember seeing exercise bikes, now this is dedication, when we did dedicate it
Right.
years ago.
I think a room maybe about this size added on, because you can't add a lot there just because of the topography, but he's been approached, and so we've got some time before it's paid off to develop that. The jail and courthouse, that is the jail expansion and the most of the elevator project, and then the courtroom addition / renovation. So you really don't have a tremendous amount of current debt. Again, the EMS will add quite a bit, but for other projects, compared to your peers, you don't really have a lot. This does not include the school debt. And so the next steps, again, we recommend the hearing in 2 weeks. And you can do it on the 15th as far as the approval. We do plan to meet on the 30th, if that's okay. We usually meet the last day of the year for amendments. And that will give us additional time to adjust the budget if necessary for whatever reason. So, any questions about the presentation, the recommended budget? Again, we have flash drives with every departmental budget. But if you would like printouts, we aim to please. So we will print out any particular department you would like. Just let us know.
Okay,
Their request is on those flash drives, right? If they have any requests.
That's right.
Okay.
right, so commissioners, you've been presented the budget. Now, go to work. Anything you want to see done, or you don't like, or you do like, or you got a question about, there's your man. And there's your lady behind us. So the ball's in our court now. He's done his job, presented, and it's our job to say yay, nay, or the highway. What are you going to do? Okay?
We're in the fourth quarter.
Yes, in the fourth quarter, though, and we're on about the 20-yard line headed in. So we got to move quick.